Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Membership Voice. I'm Kero O'Shea, the coordinator of The Voice and host for this evening's webinar. Firstly, a very special welcome to tonight's presenter, Mike Patten from the Rotary Club of Lindisfarne. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hi, Karen. Hello, everybody that's clicking on one at a time. I see a few familiar faces there.
There is someone else that I would like to acknowledge in our audience, and that's Jodie Lowe, the Membership Chair for District 9830, also known as Rotary Tasmania. Jodie recommended the Lindisfarne story to me at Membership Voice. Thanks, Jodie. You're an asset to Rotary and Tasmania. At this stage, I would also like to acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, who are traditional custodians of the land on which I'm hosting tonight's webinar. I acknowledge the strength of their continuing culture and offer my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And now I'd like to introduce Mike Patten. Mike is a remarkable Rotarian. He's the current District Governor nominee for District 9830. He spent his professional life in teaching and school administration. He told me he has extensive experience as a volunteer, but I think that's a bit of an understatement. He's been a scout leader for 60 years, was Chief Commissioner of Tasmanian Branch for 6 years. He's a life member. He's coached and managed local and state sports teams, managed a variety of state and national events, joined Rotary in 1992, transferred to Lindisfarne in 2000, and in 2005, surprise, surprise, he was awarded Australia Day Citizen of the Year in his local community. So at this stage, I'm delighted to introduce Mike Patten. Over to you, please, Mike.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to have this opportunity to speak to you all. And I'll have to try to work very hard not to say too many times. The opportunity to talk to you all about our club's membership is quite exciting because we've been working really hard on increasing the size of our club. And so the chance to tell you all the story is really good. I have a slideshow that I'll go through and I'll talk to each of the slides. So, and if anybody has any questions, I will have an opportunity at the end, as far as I know, to answer those. So the Rotary Club of Lindisfarne, why are you interested in our story? We were 5 years ago, we were a small but happy suburban club with a gradually declining and ageing membership. We quietly went about our business, doing good in our community and supporting locals, and also doing some good in the world by supporting overseas projects. We could have just continued as we were or quietly faded into oblivion like some other clubs before us, but we decided not to. And the result of that decision has changed us forever, and I guess that's why I've been asked to talk to you. And so this is a little bit of our story in the last couple of years. Our membership numbers have dramatically changed, but more interestingly, so is our diversity. We now range in age from 18 to 83. We've had a dramatic increase in our female membership, as you can see there. We have 10 members who are recent arrivals from overseas, 9 of them from the Indian subcontinent. And our club is now a vibrant place and continues to grow. You can see there just in the last month, we've had 3 new members inducted. So there are 2 stories here. One is about our satellite club, and the other is about the Rotary Club of Lindisfarne and how we reinvented ourselves to become the second largest club in our district. I'll try to tell both stories, but first I'd like to talk about our Lindisfarne story because that's what set the scene for the changes that we made. Rotary Down Under recently had an article about membership, and I think that tells a great deal of our story as well. It's not just about membership and your strong public image and our exciting projects. All of that's part of the story. But it's only when all this comes together that you have an organisation that people want to be part of, and it's that people wanting to be part of it that has allowed us to grow. And it takes careful planning and it takes a lot of hard work. And for us, it also took quite a time before we managed to achieve these outcomes. So in 2016, the Rotary Club of Lindisfarne developed a plan, and we did that based on the Council of Legislation and the change that they'd made, which allowed clubs to relax a lot of what they were doing. All those rules that were once, or what Rotary seemed to be all about, was following the rules. And so we changed our weekly meetings to fortnightly, and we made every fifth Wednesday a social meeting. But over the next couple of years, we also gradually removed the focus on members' vocation. We stopped recording attendance, much to the disgust of one member who had like 20 years of 100% attendance. We removed the formality of our meetings too. Like, we stopped having fine sessions, and we stopped calling each other past president and all the other titles that we seem to have in Rotary. And a lot of this was supported by the Rotary International Strategic Plan, and I've highlighted there the words in the strategic plan that influenced what we were doing, so that the focusing on the programs that we were doing was a really important part of the changes that we made. Growing the diversity of our membership was important, and increasing Rotary's openness and appeal fitted in with what we were doing here. We also kept building our Rotary brand in our area. The importance of engagement to retain members was also a message we took on board. And here, streamlining governance and structure was really important as well. So we had made all these changes, and we were unsure. We weren't confident that what we were doing was spot on. So we did a club health survey, and it was very pleasing that on all the questions, we had 84% to 94% support for the changes we'd made. And that gave us the encouragement that we needed to continue. So in the club assembly that we had after that survey, the members identified two areas that we needed to work even more on. With our fundraising, we weren't personally committed to the projects that we were doing. We were raising the money, but the money that we were raising seemed to be scattered around the community, and we weren't getting very much feedback on the impact. We were giving 500 to a childcare centre and 500 to the local scouts and 500 to the History Society. We were raising money for other people, but they weren't our projects. And then we also found that we weren't advertising what we were doing very well. It was a failing of ours that we weren't going out and letting the public know what we were doing. And so we decided to publicise in our local newspaper. We held a public launch for our largest project and personally invited every business person in our community to attend. We invited members of the community to join us. We got the council members coming to our events. We had guest speakers that we thought were topical, so we would invite through Facebook members of the community to come just to listen to our speakers. So we tried lots of different things, and then when the bushfires in New South Wales were on, we door knocked the entire community again and invited them to a cocktail party as a fundraiser. And so altogether, our club raised $5,000 for the bushfires in New South Wales. And we're a relatively small club, so we weren't raising lots of money as some clubs do. So for us, it was a really good outcome. And Facebook started to work for us. We were getting 400 or 500 responses to our information when we posted it. And that was another indication to us that we were starting to succeed in that area. So that gave us the final parts of our 3-part plan for our club. And at this stage, it still didn't involve a satellite club. So our plan was to first get our own house in order. And I've mentioned some of those things that we did there. We were happy. Our survey results showed that members were happy with our meeting times, and they were happy with the changed frequency. Cost is a big factor for members, and by going fortnightly, you actually halve the cost of Rotary to your members, and I think that was really appreciated by some of our older members who weren't as financially free as they could be. But it was also really important to our young members once we got started with the satellite club, because cost is a big factor. Our location had a high rating, and our meeting format would change quite significantly, and it's a much more relaxed, a very casual meeting format that we have now. And our procedures had been changed too. So the second part was focusing on the quality of our projects. We went out and instead of that scattered approach we went to our local neighbourhood house and our local school, and we started doing projects in their area. So we raised money for a new lawnmower for the neighbourhood house. We built a glass house in the school for a gardening project. We built shelving. We helped the men's shed, and our members were going along to these things and getting a personal commitment to what was happening. And we found that people were much happier to run a barbecue for a project that they could see an outcome for than they were just to run a barbecue for no purpose. And the 7 areas of focus we found with the young people we were talking to were quite inspiring, and that was a useful tool for us to be able to talk about the Rotary and our world projects. And then we started, when we had these other changes in place, we started to really promote the club. So I think it was 7 articles we had in the local newspaper. 3 times we door knocked our business community, which is only about 50 or 60 businesses in a small community. But we found that it was much easier to run a raffle when you'd door knocked and spoken to these people quite a number of times. It was also great to have them financially supporting our cocktail parties and our other gatherings. We had public events where we had the speakers. We had 2 people through Facebook who turned up at one speaker's session where he was talking about traffic problems in our local community, and both those people joined our club after that meeting. So that one worked really well. We've improved the quality of our webpage, and we've spent a lot more time on social media. The thing we had to keep remembering was that we have to stay current on social media, which is a trap that some other organisations fall into. This is a collage of some of the headings that or some of the articles that we had in our local newspaper. The one in the middle was the night that the Satellite Club was launched. And our gazebo down the bottom there was a project the club had been involved in for 3 or 4 years, and that came to fruition, and we took the opportunity to really promote that. And we also improved the quality of our publications that we hand out We had previously had a small 3-part handout, which was fine, but we think this is probably going to be more appropriate. The one on the left was designed by a 25-year-old in the Satellite Club, and that inspired a 70-year-old in our club to go and design the one on the right. And the scanning the barcode is such a simple way to spread more information very quickly. You don't have to have it all on the form. So the changes that I've just talked about have worked for our own club, and we've been growing steadily over the last couple of years. We're now up to 38, I think it is, members in our club from 18 just a few years ago. But how did we decide to start a satellite club? One of the things we did was we invited a guest speaker to our club to talk about membership as part of our preparation for our own membership drive. And this person that came to speak to us happened to be young and female. And along with a lot of other interesting stuff that she told us, she said that she would not be interested in joining any of the clubs in our area because they were all the same. They all met in the evenings, they were all mostly male, and they were all mostly old. She asked, what did Rotary offer to young people in our area? And for young people that were culturally diverse, what were we doing? And she asked, why was the only meeting option an evening meeting? Now, this made a lot of sense, really, when we stopped to think about it. And we had discussions at our next club assembly where we decided that, well, we really needed to do something. We didn't want to change how our club was functioning necessarily, but we could see that there wasn't anything for young people. And we decided to establish a breakfast satellite club that was focused on young professionals. And we called it Clarence Sunrise Club because that's in our local government area. It's called Clarence Council. And so it was a broad title that would take membership from a bigger area. So there's one of those ums that I'm trying to avoid. So the idea of a breakfast club for professional people was raised, and we decided that it wouldn't really be competing with any of the existing clubs, and that was important. We didn't want to start a new club and cause another club to fold. This was a new group of people and a new time of the day and with a whole different focus. And so we thought it would be good for Rotary and that therefore we should give it a go. And the way of giving it a go was to start approaching young professionals. If you want a club for the young professionals, talk to young professionals. A group of us went and talked to young friends, and we approached our alumni. In fact, two of the very first people that we got interested in the club were alumni. One had been to Ryla, and the other had been to a science camp in Brisbane that had really influenced her career. She's now a physiotherapist. And so they were very keen, and some of their friends were. We also had access to current and ex-scouts because, as was mentioned earlier, I'd been a scout leader in this area for over 25 years, so I did know quite a lot of young people. So I was really pleased and surprised with how enthusiastic they were to start. The idea of being part of a new club, I think, was really important to them. And the fact that the format of the club, they were going to be deciding. They had the opportunity to set it up the way that they would really like. One of the new members had joined a Rotary club in Queensland while she was still at university. And so when she came back to Hobart, she was keen to do more as well. And so this small group went out and they selected a venue. They started their own Facebook page and they started looking at fundraising options immediately. But unfortunately, COVID hit just a few months later. And so that slowed us down for a while, but we were also able to use Zoom to continue our meetings. And our first induction occurred in February, just before COVID. So there were about 4 people inducted before COVID actually hit. Social media was their means of communication, and it allowed them to communicate right through COVID. And once they started, they even had a couple of people contact them and say, why haven't I been asked to join in on this? And that's not a membership strategy that our club's ever drawn on, but it's really worked for them. And they were officially launched in October 2020 with 10 members. So as a club, they've been quite active, and they do all of this with their own secretary, treasurer, president. They've got their own bank accounts, and they've used a range of different fundraising things that our club had never done before. They've started to run wine tours in our local area, something that we'd not been involved with before. And that came just from during COVID, the wineries were having difficulty distributing their wine, and they started selling wine for one of the wineries, and then the idea of visiting wineries came up as soon as COVID. In Tasmania, we've been relatively free of COVID from about June or July last year, so they've been able to do that. They've also raised money for malaria eradication. They've funded a RILA person, and they've formed a partnership with Variety Club where they built a bike track in a local school, a low socioeconomic school that Variety were keen to see get more opportunities for their kids, and that worked really well. The track looks amazing, and the school uses it every day. And then a couple of the new members joined the District Ripon Committee, and one joined a district committee that supports the Windward Bound, a tall ship that sails out of Hobart. And they currently now have 15 members. I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong control to move the slides on. So what does all this cost the Rotary Club of Lindisfarne? Well, in time, there's been a hell of a lot of fortnightly meetings to attend that I wouldn't otherwise have had to attend. But that's been quite enjoyable. And in money, we've worked out that by the time we buy them badges and a new member pack, provide them with their first meal, and paid some of their insurance so that it was paid on time, it ended up being about $80 for each of the new members. But in return, we've had the satisfaction of starting a new club, and there's a real buzz in our club because there's so much happening. Our older members have really enjoyed the opportunity to get to know young people. We have a mentor for each new member of our club, and so a lot of our experienced Rotarians have been mentors for the satellite club members, and then they've gone to satellite club meetings that they wouldn't have gone to otherwise. It's been something that everybody's participated in and really enjoyed. And has the membership of our club suffered in any way? Well, no, it hasn't. None of the people that have joined the satellite club would have joined our club anyway. And the cost that it has cost us is really a service project to Rotary. And it's one that we're quite proud of being part of. So to finish off with this message from the World President was in one of his speeches that was published in our district recently, and he talked about membership, retention, diversity, engagement, promotion, and starting new clubs. that's what we've been doing. And he said, if you grow more, you'll be able to do more. So I just wanted to finish off my talk with reading a couple of paragraphs from my annual report to our club just a couple of months ago at our changeover. I said, we as a club have increased the number and diversity of our membership. We've been recognised for our membership growth by the district. In a COVID year, we still managed to meet our financial objectives. We achieved yet another Rotary International Club citation. We got out and were seen in our local community. We had coverage in our local paper and were mentioned by our Member of Parliament in the Commonwealth Hansard for our good work. We have grown our Facebook profile and we have appeared in some interesting statistics. The average age of our club members has reduced by over 20 years, so you should all be feeling younger. We were written up as the 4th fastest growing club in Australia. We are now the 2nd largest Rotary club in Tasmania. Our club has a third of all the Rotarians under 40 in Tasmania. We have one of the youngest Rotarians in Tasmania, and we have increased our female membership by 100%. We've increased our female membership by 100% and our overall membership by close to 50%, and we did that 2 years in a row. So I think that covers what I want to say. Caro, whatever I've missed, hopefully will be covered in some of the questions people might like to ask.
Mike, that was fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. We do have some questions for you. That was a great quote from Sheikha Mota, our Rotary International President. And I'd like to look at one of the other things that Sheikha is very, very proud of at the moment. Rotary globally is achieving significant improvements in leadership gender balance, and our RI board in particular is leading the way there because the RI board now has pretty much gender parity for the first time. 9 out of 17 of the board are women, and that's absolutely fantastic. And Sheikha was talking about that just this morning, actually. One of your very many impressive measures at Lindisfarne is that massive increase in female membership. I'm curious. You've obviously got a number of new women members. What's Lindisfarne doing to develop leadership skills, develop those women members as leaders?
Well, as you'll appreciate, our original aim were much more modest than what we've managed to achieve. I hope to get 6 new members during my first year as president, and it's not my first time as president, but the first year this time as president. And I hoped that we'll just be able to get a few more females into our club because we'd had 3 for so long that it was just needed to change. The changes have been amazing. The satellite club is 50-50 male and female. Our own club has picked up 9 new female members in the last 2 years, and there are two of those new members are already on our board, so that our board is now 4 out of 9 members are women. One of the new members has become treasurer, and the current president has only been a member of our club for the last 2.5 years. So across the board, we're trying to involve the new members as much as we possibly can. In the satellite club, the president, secretary and treasurer are all female, so that we have a very strong leadership role there, and they've been amazingly good as leaders. The each of them is contributed enormously. The treasurer is an accountant by profession, and so she's right there with everything to do with the finances. And the secretary is amazing as well, and the president has given strong leadership. So those three young members of the Satellite Club have really flown. And I think our club is stronger because of the women that we have on our board now as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. David McPherson in the audience has passed on a comment here that I think is very relevant, that you can be very proud of you and the club can be very proud of the achievement with the satellite, because in other cases, members of the traditional sponsor club have sometimes had negative views about the satellite, but your club health work has ensured that doesn't happen. So, well done there, Mike. And I've also have a message from Emily in the audience who would be interested in joining your satellite club. So I'll pass those contact details on to you after the meeting there, Mike. But a question about culture. I think this is one because conflict has disrupted Rotary clubs over the years, unresolved conflict. How has the advent of the new Clarence satellite changed the culture of Lindisfarne?
I think the changes have been really subtle and result from the overall atmosphere in our club, which I think is a very welcoming club anyway. And we have for a little while, we had a district governor a couple of years ago who introduced this as a theme for his time, and that was that clubs should make people feel welcome, respected and valued. And that has been a bit of a catch cry for us as well. And the existing club members have really embraced being mentors for the new members, and they've been going to breakfast meetings and sitting with their young member and just chatting, talking, getting to know each other, which has been really good. And our experience there's been challenges involved with it, but nobody's complained about the challenges except perhaps our caterer, because we now have 4 or 5 vegetarians, 2 require halal meat, and along the way we picked up 2 dairy allergies as well. So our caterer can be quite frustrated sometimes, but that hasn't been a problem for the rest of the club. And we've actually, there's been other club members who said, "Oh, I wouldn't mind having vegetarian," and actually we have a whole stack of vegetarian meals now each week. But everybody's been quite happy about it. One of the, or 2 of the members have young children, and both of them have brought their children with them to meetings. My wife Margot takes colouring books to the meetings, and it's amazing to see our oldest members going over and talking to a 3 or 4-year-old and having a chat, and then having a discussion with the mother and father. It's been, I think, really good for everybody in the club. They've all enjoyed it.
Mike, can I ask a couple of questions?
Yes, certainly.
Firstly, your club, the Satellite Club meets for breakfast, is that right? And then your club meets in the evening, but do they meet together sometime, do they?
Yes, well, the Satellite Club meets about 4 or 5 kilometres away from where our club meets. They meet in a restaurant underneath the Blunston Arena, where the cricket and football is played in our community, and our club meets at a local bowls club of an evening, and our bowls club is quite large, so it can easily take a bigger crowd. We have all of the members of the Satellite Club are inducted at our Lindisfarne club meetings. And so they all come that means they're there fairly often because we've had 15 inductions. So they've been, and they come along to support each other for those inductions. And they come to our changeover dinner and our Christmas dinner and so on. The problem for them is that many of them are in the satellite club because they can't, because they wouldn't be able to go to an evening club anyway.
Yes.
They're on shift work, or a couple of them actually work evenings because they're studying, and that's when they can get work. So it's been it's not the case that we all get to sit together often, but we have constant contact. And when they were first doing their Bunnings barbecues, a few of our members went to the Satellite Club barbecues and helped as well. So they've established relationships, but they're not constantly with each other.
Thanks, Mike. The other question I had was, are their membership dues the same as yours?
Yes, and that's a big issue because it's quite a lot. Our club dues are $230. The club pays the insurance because we reckon nobody would pay for public liability insurance to have a meal. So it's a part of our fundraising cost, we believe, but it's still $235 because we have to all be members of the Bowls Club as well. So it's $15 less for the Satellite Club members because they don't have to join the Bowls Club. They're meeting elsewhere. And that is an issue. We had we would have had 17 in the Satellite Club, except that 2 of them decided that it was too expensive for them after they got through the first year, which was unfortunate. But it is a real issue for young people joining Rotary, that the cost is there. Fortunately, the meals aren't expensive. They can just have a coffee at this place. They don't have to have a meal. And even if they have an egg and bacon sandwich or something, it's only, I think it's $11 or something. So it's not too expensive. They can have a more expensive meal if they want to. But yeah, cost is a big issue for young people.
Thanks, Mike.
My question was, what is the age range of your Satellite Club members? And then the second part of that was also, what is the diversity of ethnicity throughout the members?
The Satellite Club members range from an 18-year-old student to a 38-year-old project manager for a construction company, and he's the only one over 30. The rest are all in their 20s.
Okay, yep. And the
ethnicity, there's 4 of the Satellite Club from India. They're here on temporary visas, I think, and they're all students as well as working.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
While we're waiting for Kerry to come back, hello, it's Adrian Roach, I'm the Rotary Coordinator for Zone 8. I just wanted to say congratulations, Mike, to you and your club for this initiative. And as we can see, starting new satellite clubs does work, it does build our membership up. And of course, they're all part of your club membership anyway. So congratulations and thank you for doing this and for what you've done for Rotary.
We do have another question. This one's an interesting one from Emily. Her question is, the other option in terms of attracting young members was to start a Rotaract club. Did Lindisfarne consider that option when they were doing their planning?
Only briefly. There is a Rotaract club in Hobart that is based at the university and would be available to anybody who would like to be in Rotaract. But some of the young people I spoke to had considered Rotaract, and when we were giving them the option of actually starting their own club, they were enthusiastic to actually get in there and doing it themselves as full members rather than being Rotaractors. A couple of them have done RILA, so they did have an understanding of Rotary and what's involved, and they just wanted to be Rotarians.
That leads into my next question. Thanks, Emily. Mike, Rotary youth programs, you mentioned a couple on the way through. Has Lindisfarne actively considered using Rotary youth programs as a means of growing the Clarence satellite?
Well, the Lindisfarne didn't need to, because part of the program for the Satellite Club was to ask some Rotarians on district committees to come and talk about Rotary, so they could increase their knowledge of Rotary. And so they had a talk about Rypen, and it turned out that two of the people that have joined the Satellite Club were participants in Rypen themselves only 10 years or so ago. And so they've both joined the district Rypen committee, which I understand Emily is going to be joining as well. And when we were talking about the 100 years of Rotary sailing journey up the east coast of Australia, and we had a speaker about that, and the current president of the Satellite Club has a coxswain's ticket and used to be a regular sailor on the Windward Bound, and so she's joined the Rotary committee that's working on several projects that the Windward Bound's involved in. So they've got involved themselves very quickly.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. Mike, there's a topical issue here that I'm sure that Membership Chair Jody can relate to. It's one that's received a lot of attention in Rotary, and that is the concept that we don't have a membership challenge, we have a leadership issue. Obviously, from what you've gone through, leadership has been central to this turnaround at Lindisfarne. How has leadership? What part has good leadership played in everything that's happened?
Well, that's an interesting question. Our club is only small, but it's quite strong. We have one of the current assistant governors is in our club, and we have a couple of other members who have been assistant governors, and we have still got in our club most of the last 6 or 8 club presidents, so that they're still there with a good knowledge of what the club is on about. But the interesting leadership is an interesting thing. As far as membership is concerned, actually yesterday I was sitting next to a relatively new member in our club, and she said, the district governor was there for her visit, and she was praising the club for what they do, what they've done in membership. And the new member said to me, I've been puzzling about what it is that you do that's different, that allows you to recruit so many people into Rotary. And she said, I thought about it quite a lot. And she said, you don't do anything special or different. You just talk to us and let us decide for ourselves whether we should join your club. And I think that's an important part of it. If your club is running really well, you're selling a really good product, and therefore it's easier to get people who want to join. We haven't had to twist any arms. People have wanted to join, and I don't think our club was quite as good a product 5 years ago. We're a better version of ourselves now than we were then. And as that better version, people have been drawn to join us. It's now, I got an email a little while back from a person saying, I've heard good things about your club, can I come along and check it out? And they joined. So, it's not a very easy thing to put into words what has happened to make things turn around, but it has turned around.
Mark Huddleston, one of our resident Australian membership gurus, membership specialist, has spoken of the importance of clubs changing to adapt to members. Would you like to comment on that in terms of the Lindisfarne turnaround, clubs adapting to members?
Yes, well, certainly the satellite club is totally adapted to the people that are in it. They've had the opportunity to shape it in the way that they would like, and I'm sure it will change considerably in the next 12 months even as they adapt to what suits them. As far as the membership of our club, we've now got less than half of our members that were in the club 3 years ago. So that the club is almost like a new club. We're forming, we're changing to suit people, but it was the first, the existing members that decided that they wanted to change how we did things. And so I guess being prepared to listen to what people say is the key to that. People said they wanted a less formal meeting. They didn't want fines. Couple of the people said that in discussion they didn't want fines because they were embarrassing. And I'd never worried about fines. They were just part of Rotary, but we've dropped them from our meetings in response to those people feeling uncomfortable. We still do have happy fines so that people can announce their new grandchildren or their new cars or whatever else they're interested in, but we don't have, we've taken that embarrassment out of it because that's what people wanted. So I think the Rotary clubs that try to do stuff the way it was done 20 years ago are going to be far less suited to the modern people than our club is, and they won't be attractive when new people turn up. People will come to their meetings and they'll think that doesn't suit them and they'll go away again.
That seems to sum it up just nicely. Okay, one last question, Mike, and it's a question that I like asking all of our membership voice presenters and specialists. Mike Patten, why are you in Rotary?
Why am I in Rotary? Well, I come from a Rotary family. My father was a charter member of a club well into last century. In fact, in the middle of last century, it seems. And so I grew up with him sitting in the dining room, working on Rotary projects. He was secretary of his club for many years. And I went to Rilo myself in 1971, which I only recently found out was the first time it had been that held Rilo in our district. And that was a very strong memory that I had. So when I went to a new school in a small town called Oatlands in the Midlands of Tasmania, the club very wisely had said to the school, there's got to be a teacher in the Rotary Club so that we can do our youth programs properly. And I was the new assistant principal, and the principal tapped me on the shoulder and said, that's you. And I went and joined the Rotary Club. And I've been a very enthusiastic Rotarian ever since. So my scouting background is also a service-based background, so it was quite natural for me to be providing service for the community. And I've enjoyed the company. There's been some really great Rotarians that I've met and been active with at all sorts of events. And so I even managed to talk my wife into joining. Quite some years ago, we had the Rotary Youth Driver Awareness Program was being explained to us at a group assembly. And my wife said, oh, our kids should have been part of that. That's a fantastic program. How do you get involved in that? And I just looked at her and said, you join Rotary. And so she did. And she became the secretary of that program in Tasmania when it first came here. 5 years she was secretary of driver awareness program. So she's an active Rotarian as well, which certainly makes it easier for me to do what I do.
Mike Patten,
You're another one of these amazing Rotarians who seems to personify this service above self thing that's the motto of our marvellous organisation. So well done, mate. Great work tonight. And now I'd invite everyone who's still with us in the audience to turn those microphones back on, please, because we're going to give Mike a round of applause for a great presentation and a wonderfully handled Q&A. So if you could, please.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Great work there. Thanks, mate. Good night, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Caro. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.